I've always loved movies. That's always been how I've processed my joy or my grief or my happiness or sadness. But I don't think anyone understands how much time like every single element takes, because it all has to be done from scratch. I have water, I have coffee, I have notes. Should roll. Okay.
We good to go?
We are good to go.
Every once in a while, a filmmaker comes along who is so uniquely talented, it feels like they've invented a whole new genre, making things you've never seen before in a way that's never been done before. And for me, the latest name on that list is Julian Curi. Not only because of the astonishing quality of his work that can easily rival Pixar, Laika, and any other animation studio, but also because of the fact that he's doing it on his own. And I mean everything. From handcrafting every single element out of paper, to writing, directing, editing, filming, and even puppeteering, all by himself, all in his tiny home studio.
Every day is so difficult, but then I look at the footage and I'm like, damn, that's pretty cool. Let's make another one. I just like throw myself in it completely and I learn along the way, because every scene took minimum like 2 months to build a whole new set, and you have to act every single role and you have to find how each puppet moves a little bit differently.
If I've ever seen a perfectionist, that would be you.
I'm not 100% happy with it, but I'm getting closer to that vision, to that dream of like trying to bring a realism and a sensitivity to something as simple as paper.
So I first came across Julian while I was mindlessly scrolling, doing research on social media, and I was immediately struck by how unique his work is. Not quite stop motion, not quite traditional animation, not quite cut-out paper animation, but this beautiful mix of everything. And being as nosy as I am, I had to know more.
I don't consider myself a master at any one thing. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. So it's everything you just said and more. A lot of people think that it is primarily stop motion, and it's not. While I do use some stop motion techniques in it, it is primarily in-camera, 24 frames a second puppetry. And everyone tells me that that's such a great thing, and I get it, it is in the long run, but there are times that I just really need help, and I wish that there was just a YouTube tutorial to do this or that. So I've had to get creative a lot of the times and pull techniques from stop motion filmmaking, pull techniques from miniature building, people building train sets for movies, matte paintings for movies. And then the next few years of my life were completely overtaken with this new obsession of trying to bring a realism and a sensitivity to something as simple as paper.
So as he kept on experimenting with this new style, he was also sharing his process on social media, and it didn't take long before it went viral. Millions of views, hundreds of thousands of followers, and people from all around the world asking the same question. Is it possible to make a short film? Which meant that Julian had to decide. Considering that this would take years, does he fully commit to making one and drop everything else, or does he keep it as a passion project and move on to other things? But after sharing some early concepts of a story he'd already had in mind, it was clear that people wanted to see it. They practically begged him to start a crowdfunding campaign, and within a month, GRUFF was fully funded and officially in production.
It was a story that I had kind of a loose outline for about my relationship with my dad, who had passed a couple of years prior, and I process everything I go through stories. So if I can kind of remove myself from it and write a story about it through the perspective of another character, it really helps me understand what I'm going through and how to navigate it. So the entirety of the short film of GRUFF was my test of, can I make something that is emotionally satisfying out of paper? But it's film too, so I had to spice it up. But it had to have action, it had to have heart, it had to have spectacle. And I was like, let's make it about a super spy. Let's do 24 different locations. When am I gonna be able to direct something that has a character jumping out of a helicopter in live action? I probably never will, so let's do it in paper. And I shot it in chronological order because I wanted to get better as a filmmaker as the film went on, so that I could really land that plane at the end, and that I knew that I was the best paper puppet cutout animator possible by the end of that movie. that kind of helped me mentally segregate each scene as its own short film, because every scene took minimum like 2 months to build a whole new set, populate it with props, characters, and stuff. So if I really struggled in one scene, I could then go right into that next scene chronologically, and think, okay, how can I build the walls a little bit better, a little sturdier? Okay, foam core is warping, it's not quite working. Maybe I should make them out of wood. Or like some environments, the lighting was just so tricky. Like I'm in a garage, it's a 1-car garage. And if I need to film like an outdoor scene, like I don't have enough space or enough light to simulate the sun. I just have a bunch of little LED panels, and like that's not enough to fill this whole space. So I'm remembering the pain, and I'm remembering the stress and the sweat.
Well, plot twist, this is actually a therapy session.
The more we get into it, the better. I'm happy to.
Let's get into the fun stuff, in my opinion, just because I relate to spiritual level and I love hearing those behind the scenes stories. So, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you stumbled upon that are specific to this medium? And what are some interesting examples of the lengths you've gone through to design and create every single thing on set?
Oh man, where to begin? Some scenes would take a long, long, long time to do. Like there's a moment in Gruff where it's just 2 airplanes flying at each other, and shooting at each other, and then one explodes. I think that might have taken 2 months. I had to build the inside of a plane, with a joystick. Then I had to build 2 entire planes that would fly at each other. Then I had to build a larger one that was to scale of the character, but like just the cockpit to shoot from the outside, or in the like filming in the acting process of like, this moment is just not working, and I have to keep filming it and keep filming and keep filming it. And it's physically demanding too, like to just reach around and get into these weird angles so that your hands aren't visible in the frame, but like that's the only way to puppeteer it. And like, after even just a minute and a half, you're burning up. These things are made out of paper, so every little micro shake in your hand registers as like a big motion on the puppet. So my hand starts getting numb in the middle of a take, and then it's kind of shaking because the blood's pumping through it. Like, screw that, I'm returning that quick.
Just write a short film in which only earthquakes happen all the time.
Oh man. But then the second biggest battle is just the 3-dimensionality of this. So with Gruff, there are characters that you see, like, I can't shoot this from the side because it's all flat, it's all paper. So we see her from this angle. I think we see the back of the bike. It's a whole nother puppet when we see her from the front. With Gruff, that worked. That was okay because there are so many scenes and we're just going in and out of them. But then once things kind of slowed down, I felt a little encumbered by the fact that I can't have a character who's staring this way turn their head. I have to use a cut. I have to use an edit to change them over. So that's been a challenge. And so going into my next film, I was like, I don't know how to really do anything else. Let me just do the same thing. So I was making a front version of the characters, then a side version of the characters. And I was just getting pissed, and I'm like, there's gotta be a better way. But like, how do I make a 3-dimensional character out of paper? But they also basically have to be action figures, or better than action figures. I need to be able to loosen their joints so that I can puppeteer them, or tighten them if I need them to hold a pose. And that's asking a lot out of a little armature. So it's been a struggle. There's a character in Night in the Snail. He's called the Broker, but yeah, he can't turn. And so this is fine. This is like the Gruff style. This is the Gruff technique. Put a lot of work into the paint job and whatnot. And I'm like, shoot, okay, I've just gotten to the point where he's looking from the side. So I have to basically match and do the exact same look in profile. Fine. Then I got to a part where he has to face this way. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm so sick of this. Not only does it feel like I'm doing a lot of extra work, but I'm being creatively held back by the fact that I can't have him do a 3/4 perspective, because then you can see like how thin he is. Oh, then do I build a 3/4 puppet? That's and if you need to see him from the back for an over the shoulder shot, that's another puppet. There's gotta be another way. So the main character of the film, he's called the Cutthroat. He has this enormous armor. So I got to a point where I had to make him from the side because he's our main guy. He has to express a lot. So I thought let's put the time in and make him fully three dimensional. And so now
Wow.
got this. And so he is filmable from every single angle. This has been the dream. This, like, to film something completely 360. So he is 100% paper, like the axe, his handle, his little daggers and stuff. It's all paper. This is paper towels, which has a really cool, like, kind of grid-like texture. And yeah, you can see kind of the difference of styles here. That, like, these guys have so much more texture and detail.
Mm-hmm.
But you asked for a blink and you'll miss it detail. These are things that are in the background of a shot that, like, you don't really focus on too much. There's a bar in the film that only lasts for one shot. It's like a military bar. So that had blueprints of a helicopter, like maps of the world, flags. But in the Oval Office, there's typically images of other presidents. So rather than just printing out a painting, these are actual to scale miniature paintings that I did, miniature portraits in this size. So that's old George Washington, and here's Mr. Jefferson. I don't know why I didn't do them in the style, like in the cartoony style of Gruff. I realized that after the fact. I was like, oh shoot, they should have been stylized.
Well, maybe they're stylized in universe, and that is the style.
Yeah, so they're weird looking in that universe.
Yeah.
Why don't they have ginormous eyes and square ears? But man, it was worth it. I'm so happy that I got to this level and that it's all still paper. Just like now I'm becoming a tailor. And you know, like, oh, where are the seam lines on a t-shirt, or where are the seam lines on a pair of jeans and stuff? And I kind of have to make that myself. Would it be easier to just buy doll clothes? Absolutely. But I don't know. Then it wouldn't be as special.
So, after premiering Gruff live on his YouTube channel and building a massive community of supporters along the way, Julian is doing it again, but this time even more ambitious. And considering all the experience he has by this point, it would be smooth sailing, right?
I had the idea for this short film even before Gruff. This was going to be a live action film. So coming out of Gruff, I was like, I want to do something a little smaller, a little quicker, a little faster, just characters talking, maybe a little bit of action, one location, not 25. I think that'll be easy. But that was my live action brain thinking that would be easy to just go out into the woods and hire a couple friends, put on a suit of armor. Like, that shoot would be done in a day. But oh my gosh, this is like more work than Gruff though, because like because it all takes place in one location. I felt like I needed to really compensate and make that location extra beautiful, extra detailed, extra intricate, because if it's the space that we're going to spend the whole movie in, if your eye wanders, I want there to be juicy nuggets in all the corners of the frame for you to look at and for you to absorb. Like every leaf has to be beautiful. So it really is a dance. I feel like there's a filmmaker in me and there's a painter in me, and they have very different approaches to creating worthwhile work. The filmmaker in me is very economical and is very realistic about time and glosses over the little details because, yeah, that's going to be in the background. It's out of focus. Don't worry about it. Or we're not even going to see that in the edit. Or, you know, everyone's just going to watch this on their phones on YouTube, so don't worry about that. But then the painter in me wants to labor over every single detail and say, well, it doesn't matter if no one pays attention. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't make something beautiful. Then the filmmaker goes, yeah, that's really nice, but you wasted 3 years and you've only gotten, 6 minutes of footage. So let's go. And I can be working on painting a prop and repainting and repainting and repainting. And my wife will come in and be like, it looked good like 5 versions ago. What are you doing? I'm like, well, yeah, it did. It looked good enough for the filmmaker, for the director. but I know that I can make this better. And I'll show you an example here. There's a Gothic window in Night in the Snail that kind of like overlooks the whole set. And I was really struggling with the paint job on it because I wanted it has to at once blend into the background behind the characters, and yet it's kind of a character on its own. So it has to kind of pop from the background, but not too much. Otherwise it'll look distracting. And so I kept having this push and pull of like how vivid to make the colors or how contrasty to make the aging and the grime and the weathering in it, that even though at every stage it looked fine as an object on its own, the filmmaker in me knew like, well, it has to play in this whole environment. It has to blend in and stand out. And so I've got it right here. And so like it should tell a story on its own, that it's been here for a long time and has this moss growing all over it. But the paint on this brickwork should be soft enough that it's not like screaming at you. Like it's old, but it's not ancient. And the back of this I left as like an older version because I don't think I'm actually going to be filming from the back. But this was a version that I had done before. So way more like contrasty and like crunchy. This looks fine. This looks cool. But it doesn't play along with the rest of the set. It screams like it calls too much attention to itself. So I felt that this paint job kind of like set it back into the distance a little more. It's a little more gentle. So it's really tough. It's really tough to decide what to spend a lot of time on and what to just not put less love into or less detail into, but what to be economical about.
Absolutely. I got that impression that you have legacy in mind, that you have that film is permanent and forever. Is that something that you're thinking about? And if yes, how are you approaching that with the work that you do?
I think that that's the artist brain kind of taking over, where, you know, film is usually made for the moment. It follows trends and cinematography, trends and screenwriting, yada yada. Like it's very consumer focused with like what's the market putting out right now. But I do think about tomorrow and the tomorrows after that and the tomorrows after that, and I really want to tell stories that have a more timeless feel to them, the way that art does in museums. Like I think it's so incredible when I see videos of people crying in front of paintings that were made 200 years ago. I mean, what an honor that is to that artist, even if that artist wasn't successful in their lifetime. How eternal that is, that an artist can speak through history to someone 200 years from now. And so, yeah, while it could be frustrating right now to be like, oh shoot, how do I create something that will speak to, you know, a 15-year-old who's into movies 200 years from now? It's a little daunting, but then it's also freeing, being like, well, if people aren't all about it today, maybe they will be tomorrow. And what you should concentrate on is making something beautiful, and the rest will work itself out.
After talking to Julian for almost 2 hours, I walked away from this conversation filled with optimism. It gave me this old school feeling of movie magic. And especially now, in the age of AI, it's really nice to know that there are filmmakers like him out there whose goal is not necessarily clicks or numbers or even fame, but connection. And are putting the human touch into everything they do. No matter how long it takes, no matter how difficult it gets. And that's what film is really about.